Hello everyone, I am Max Stickmanberg, once again broadcasting from our studio that's under construction, so pardon our appearance. And as I said in my last broadcast, I wanted to talk a little bit about Jeremiah Wright and the controversy surrounding him being connected to Barack Obama, which shouldn't I mean, it's just so, let's say, low for another nominee to try to use that against another candidate. I guess that those tactics are indeed the American way. First, I want to talk about patriotism and what patriotism actually means. And today most people agree that patriotism also involves service to their country, but many disagree on how to best perform such service. Some believe that the national government speaks for a country, therefore all its citizens should actively support government policies and actions. But others argue that a true patriot speaks out when convinced that their country is following an unwise or unjust action. You see, government policies is not always just, and they're not always wise. And whether certain citizens believe that certain policies, are to their belief to be what they agree with, other people have the right to speak out against them, and sometimes it takes to criticize the government. So this is what Jeremiah Wright essentially did. And he's not the only person or reverend who spoke out against American policies. There was one who was even more scrutinized nationally, who's been in jail several times for speaking out against American policies, who was hated by America, called communism, and he was considered one of the most unpatriotic men of his time, yet he won the Nobel Peace Prize. Before I tell you who that reverend is, who was more controversial than Jeremiah Wright, I'm going to tell you some more about patriotism. The word patriotism comes from the Greek word meaning fatherland. For most of history, love of fatherland or homeland was an attachment to the physical features of the land, but the notion changed in the 18th century when the ideals of democracy, socialism, and communism strongly emerged into the political thought. Patriotism was still a love of one's country that included connections to the land and people, but then also included its customs and traditions, pride in its history, and devotion to its welfare. Now, America's devotion to the welfare of certain citizens is questionable, because they didn't treat all of their citizens equally. And, so people had to speak out about that. And once again, people argue that a true patriot speaks out when convinced that their country is following an unwise or unjust action. And a person who spoke out against American policies, more so, maybe in a different manner. Jeremiah Wright should choose his words differently, and wish he was able to articulate the message he's trying to relay in a different fashion to where people won't be offended. But unfortunately, that's the only way he knows to go about it. This man, who was jailed several times and actually assassinated for speaking out about American policy, disagreeing with American policy, is the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. So we need to really think about what a patriot is, and whether question our own patriotism, and what's right and what's wrong, and what's going on in this race for the Democratic nomination. On our next broadcast, we're going to have a speech by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and it's going to be mixed by a DJ. Is a studio engineer named Gerald Johnson. And on our next broadcast, we're going to do it in 3 segments because we can only do it in 10-minute pieces. So we're going to have some speeches mixed with music for your entertainment, and listen carefully to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who was even more controversial, speaking out against American policies, than Reverend Jeremiah Wright. Thank you very much for listening, and have a great day, everyone. We'll see you soon. Bye.